A consistent theme of this program is the idea of the parallel economy and letting your dollars reflect your values. We've talked about it since day one of this show. And since then, the Patriot economy is surging. More and more Americans are committed to taking on the woke economy and supporting America-loving businesses. At the center of it all is PublicSq, which is the marketplace for freedom-loving businesses. They went public earlier this summer and are now on the New York Stock Exchange. But this is more than just a business transaction. It's a larger movement to empower Americans to take control of their spending and send a message to the woke economy that business, as usual, is over. This is going to be an extraordinary episode. We'll talk to PublicSq's CEO, Michael Seifert, and your favorite chef, Andrew Gruel, whose restaurant, Calico Fish House, is on PublicSq and flourishing. So make sure you like, share, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. And joining me now, PublicSq CEO and founder, Michael Seifert. Michael, thank you so much for being on the program.
It's great to be here, Kimberly. Good to see you.
All right. Well, first of all, you've come such a long way in such a short period of time. Talk about what it was like to go public and what it means for the company and for freedom-loving Americans across this country.
Well, Kimberly, just like there's a strong desire for consumers to spend money in alignment with their values, especially in this era of woke capital, it gets so frustrating watching the Targets and the Anheuser-Busch's and the Ben Jerry's of the world continue to mock our values and then hurt their own market caps in the process. So it really makes no sense. We've provided this network of alternatives so that consumers can spend money with companies that love the country, the Constitution, and the values that it protects. If you want an escape from the progressive indoctrination found in corporate America right now, you can go to PublicSq and enjoy that. Just like there's that strong desire for consumers to spend money at those types of businesses, there is also an equally strong desire for investors to invest their money with companies that do not hate them. And on July 20th, when we took this company public, it was great standing up there with you, Kimberly. As we took this company public, it was amazing to watch as Chants of USA roared across the stock exchange floor. There was only one gentleman in the room that did not like that on the stock exchange floor, and that was Jim Cramer. He plugged his ears. He didn't want to hear it. He couldn't handle the patriotism, but everybody else in that room was absolutely electric because they felt like finally there was a company that's standing up for the values that have made this nation so special. And now that we are a public company, we get to be a company that's by the people, for the people, and owned by we the people. So obviously you can find the platform at publicsq.com and spend money in alignment with your values. And we're also listed on the New York Stock Exchange. PSQH is the ticker. It's been a wild ride thus far, and we are just getting started.
And we really are. And let me tell you something. I just love it every time I meet people, different restaurants. I might sign up, get on the platform, so people can actually find your business and help it thrive and flourish because you stood up for your values. I know my son's always on the app and checking. He only wants to eat at a restaurant that's on PublicSq. So it's great. So we're encouraging everyone we can to get on there and enjoy all the aspects that what the platform has to offer. So, let's talk about a little bit, what kind of the reaction has been like. It's just been pretty overwhelming. You came up with this idea. This was your brainchild, your, baby here. And now people are they're so fired up about it. Tell people, what they can find when they actually go. And if I'm a small business owner, I own a restaurant, a bakery, etc. When I go and sign up on PublicSq, what can I find? How do they use it? And just explain that interface.
Well, I'm happy to start there. Actually, I love that you asked that question because while it's obviously rewarding to provide a platform for consumers to go and visit these businesses, we have over 65,000 small businesses on the platform. It's incredibly fulfilling for a consumer to be able to spend money knowing that they're putting purpose behind their purchase. There's trust involved in every transaction. That's very unique and it's rare in our current corporate American environment. But what's even more rewarding for us as a team is hearing the stories of how the businesses on the platform are actually prospering. Because right now, no one in our country has it harder in our economy than small businesses. COVID was the greatest wealth transfer in history between the small businesses that make our community special, having to relinquish wealth and success to the quote unquote essential businesses like Amazon and Walmart and Target. Those businesses in COVID got to prosper. They got to stay open. They got special favors from the government while your local hardware store and restaurant had to shut down. It was completely unfair. It was an attack on the basic rights of every individual. You cannot ever shut down an economy.
No.
Not for a plague, not for a pandemic, not for a war. You don't shut down an economy ever. It decimates the small businesses that our country is supposed to be built upon. And so when we hear stories that they're joining PublicSq and they're prospering, it's the most rewarding thing. In fact, Kimberly, it was interesting. The Washington Post, which is not exactly our friend, obviously, the Washington Post interviewed a set of our businesses about a month ago. And I was shocked to learn that they actually objectively reported what these businesses said.
Yeah, I saw the article. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, wasn't that amazing? They called these businesses. There was actually a pet shop in Alabama. They called this pet store and said, hey, you're kind of an alternative to the PetSmarts of the world. You're a local small business and you're listed here on PublicSq. Why don't you tell us about how that's been? And they said that we've seen 1,000% increase in traffic to our store, specifically tracked from PublicSq. We are seeing record profits. And that started months ago since we initially joined the platform, and it's not slowing down. We've seen hair salons that see 300% increases in their sales a month after joining. We've seen restaurants able to keep their doors open because they've seen an increase in traffic. These stories are incredibly rewarding because over the next decade, it's going to be more important than ever to support those mom and pop shops in your community. Yeah. They need it. The government gives them no favors. They don't have the lobbying dollars. And so when they can know that they have we the people behind them, they have this new gravitas to stand strong and continue fighting for the future in their economy locally. And we're proud to be a conduit of those transactions. So if for a business joining the platform, our ask is simple. You don't have to pay us anything. Join for free. Let us show you what can happen with the PublicSq experience when millions of consumers are driven because of their values and they know that you're a safe place. You're not going to cancel them. You're not going to lecture them about gender ideology when they're just trying to partake in your services. There's this beautiful parallel economy that's being created. And Kimberly, we are really at the dawn of something special, most notably for those businesses that take a stand and say, I love the country. I love the Constitution. I want to partner with this platform because I believe it's built on excellence, meritocracy, and the values that will lead to the prospering for not just this generation, but the generations to come. That is not only a liberating endeavor, it is a very lucrative one. The last thing I'll say, Kimberly, just to highlight how these small businesses are able to interact on the platform, when you join, you're partaking not only in an amazing community of patriotic Americans, you're actually partaking in a growing microcosm that represents the third largest economy in the world by GDP. Here's what I mean. If you look at election data in 2020, and you look at the data that the regime is even just willing to show us, right? So you look at the votes in 2020 for President Trump, for example, and you begin to quantify that. What the news media is even willing to tell us is that $7 trillion was represented by Trump voters in GDP in 2020. $7 trillion means that's the third largest economy in the world by GDP, larger than Japan, larger than Indonesia, larger than Germany, larger than India, only third to China and the United States more broadly. So what if I told you as a small business owner, you'd have the opportunity to join a platform for free, get connected to an economic engine that represents the third largest economy in the world by GDP, and no other businesses are talking to them. These leads are hot because they're looking for businesses that are willing to speak to them. Sure. You'd say, well, this is a no-brainer. I want to join. And that's the exact type of response and reaction that we're seeing from these businesses as they join this experience and build this America's marketplace with us. Yeah, it's fantastic. It's definitely been like a force multiplier, and it's continuing to propel forward, which is fantastic. You know, we've also seen, Michael, a massive backlash against companies like Target for embracing this whole like left-wing ideology and lunacy, okay, like DEI and ESG. Is PublicSq essentially, a way for consumers to opt out from all of that? It definitely is. In fact, that's kind of our ask of folks is, hey, if you're really frustrated with the existing institutions, you can unsubscribe from them. No one's forcing you to continue going to Target. We actually have this network of alternatives, and a boycott is incomplete unless you have somewhere else to put your spending power. Right? Because these companies have abused our rights for way too long. They've lectured us about stuff that we don't believe in. They've tried to indoctrinate our kids. Target selling tucking underwear to children. Excuse me. So what's our responsibility? Well, as consumers, what we spend our money on is what we empower. So let's take our money elsewhere and empower something else. We are definitely seen as the sort of antidote to the DEI and ESG cults that are collapsing in front of our very eyes. And by the way, the collapsing is not an opinion. This is objective data. If you look at Target, they had their first quarterly earnings miss in 6 years. And Kimberly, the last time they missed their quarterly earnings 6 years ago, you know what it was about? It was about the bathroom debacle. Do you remember that?
Yes.
When Target did the whole bathroom thing and they let that be a hill that they die on to try to let men in women's bathrooms.
Terrible.
And they missed their quarterly earnings miss. 6 years later, we've seen the same thing happen again. Anheuser-Busch, 26% down from last year.
Crazy.
Billy Bush coming out and saying, hey, we should get back this brand because my ancestors are rolling in their grave.
Right.
So
because of the
when they
whole
come to
Dylan Mulvaney Bud Light situation, nightmare.
Exactly. It is a nightmare. And while these other brands are, for a variety of different reasons, slapping their audiences in the face, because you remember on the Bud Light deal, the VP of marketing that instituted that campaign called their market, their consumers, fratty and outdated. So it's like you can't just insult your consumers and expect to get away with it. Eventually, they're going to take their money elsewhere. The day that Bud Light did what they did with Dylan Mulvaney, we saw an 800% increase in searches for beer on our platform. So while people are unsubscribing from these broken systems, they're coming and joining this marketplace that is really centered on all the values that stand antithetical to ESG and DEI. And one more important distinction. In order to stay in the good graces of the ESG cult, and as a reminder, ESG stands for environmental, social, and governance. So for any of the listeners or the viewers, ESG is essentially an economic philosophy that has caused countless companies to take their eye off the ball. Companies used to prioritize shareholder value, meritocracy, excellence, and instead ESG has them focus on these external stakeholders like the climate or marginalized communities or different races and diversity quotas. It doesn't help the business at all. It takes the eye off the ball. What ESG also requires businesses do is meet certain quotas, donate a certain amount of money to certain campaigns, limit emotions. It's all these actions that you have to do as a company to stay in the good graces of the regime, none of which have anything to do with running a good business. PublicSq is fundamentally the opposite. You don't have to do anything. All we're asking that you do when you're a small business joining the platform, do you agree with these values?
Yes.
Do you respect these values, meaning you won't spend time, money, or resource antagonistically against these? You don't have to donate to right-wing causes. We're just asking that you don't donate to left-wing ones, because that'll help consumers know with blessed assurance that they're not going to end up funding their opposition or some radical climate agenda when all they were trying to do is buy a cup of coffee.
Exactly. I think it's good. It's a healthy pledge and it's an honest pledge. And you know, I get asked a lot about, you know, what the vetting process is. You've just articulated it very well. And it's a simple thing. And so if you're an honest character and you actually believe in these things, it shouldn't be a big ask or a big jump for you to be able to say, okay, I comply and I will not use my economic resources in an antagonistic way, you know, against these values. So, you know, as you've been strong, but beyond belief, saying, you know, no more complying with COVID mandates and the whole madness there. Expand on what you mean by this, because I think this is one of the most important issues that we're facing right now.
Well, it certainly is. We've seen grumblings over the past few weeks from different institutions, businesses, hospitals, universities. There's a university in Atlanta last week that announced that they're doing 2 weeks to slow the spread, which I could not believe the audacity that they would actually use that phrase after everything that we've learned, right? Like we've learned that the initial states like California took that initial phrase and just ran away with it and ended up turning it into 2 years to slow the spread. And so the fact that this university would have the ignorance to be like, hey, let's go back to that and kind of restart the process over again. Universities around the country, there was actually a university in the Midwest that just did this recently as well. And then hospitals like Kaiser Permanente in California. We have seen Lionsgate Studios, one of the largest movie production studios, that came out and said, hey, back to the masks. Universities are instituting vaccine mandates when we obviously know that that's not something that's applicable to every college student that they should be getting. And there's obviously a personal choice element in this that has to be respected. And yet these universities are just completely denying that, and they're infringing upon the ability of an individual to medically choose what they'd like to do. So it's like the thing is starting again. And it's the responsibility of every free American to make sure that we do not compromise our liberties for safety. And first of all, it's kind of a false facade of safety. I think we'd all agree with that. And these states during the COVID season that just ran away with this and ended up utilizing the guise of safety to create an authoritarian lockdown structure, they're trying to do it again. And we wanted to make a message very clear to the market, to all of our consumers, to all of our businesses, to all of our shareholders. We will never comply with authoritarian lockdowns that infringe upon the rights of every single individual in the public square, whether you are a business or a consumer. So we actually wanted to go and even put some money behind our words. We wanted to actually put some skin in the game and let folks know that just like in the first set of lockdowns, if any of the PublicSq businesses on their platform incur fines, we will pay for all of your legal fees to fight those fines. We did it the first time. We're going to do it the second time if it comes around again. We have built an economic engine that is impenetrable to the forces of authoritarian tyranny, and we are not about to start bowing now. So our encouragement, free humans of America, stay free. Don't let them infringe upon your rights. Recognize that the veil's kind of been lifted over the past few years. We know what's going on now, and it's really important that they don't do this in the name of securing an election, fortifying an election. Oh no, it's not safe. We got to fold in paper ballots. Like, we've seen this playbook before. Let's not fall for it.
Yeah, and are there some businesses, besides, I personally go out, and, if it's a place that I love and people that own a business that are great, and small business, just word of mouth, being able to get people out there, and everybody's very happy once they get on the platform. Is there any kind of recruitment, process that you guys go through to identify and target businesses that you think would be a good fit for PublicSq? And what are the parameters that you use for that process?
We actually have a network of 600 ambassadors around the country, Kimberly. It's amazing. So these are our super consumers.
Pretty
these
impressive.
are the folks that, they apply to be an ambassador. They get the t-shirt sent to them. They get the sticker, and they're off to the races. They're telling every business that they know in their neighborhoods that PublicSq is a great solution for them to be able to not only in a liberating manner exercise their ability as a small business owner in America to stand by their patriotism, but also a lucrative endeavor to make more money than they've ever seen as well from this really active consumer base. We've certainly seen that ambassador program has bared a lot of fruit. In fact, it's how we started. In the early days in San Diego, California, where we got our launch, we actually went door to door and we knocked on these businesses' doors, and we had this flyer, and we basically said, hey, do you agree with these values? Does this seem like this kind of embodies your worldview and how you operate your business? And if they said yes, then we would say, hey, we've got a great platform you can join for free, and we think you'd really enjoy this experience. And that is how we got started. In San Diego, California, we had a soft launch in the fall of 2021 with 150 businesses and 1,000 consumers. And we knew in the first few days of that launch that we were onto something special here. And thankfully, now 65,000 plus businesses strong, we have seen that ambassador program is still a massive driver in our growth. By the way, people can apply at PublicSq.com to be an ambassador. Please reach out to us. If you're a super consumer and you want to spread the word, if you've got friends that have businesses and you want to get some free swag for inviting them to the platform, that's a pretty cool community to be a part of. The network effect is how this grows, Kimberly, when patriotic Americans are no longer silent. Because we're not the silent majority. We're the loud majority now. It's time to speak up.
I love
when those folks will go out and they'll recruit folks, that is how this thing spreads like wildfire.
Well, and you can tell by the growth, and it's growing exponentially. So I remember, Michael, that I asked you last time if you saw yourself, as a political figure. I kind of want to revisit that, given all your growth and influence and such a leading voice that we've seen across multiple platforms, on top shows. You've been on absolutely everything, and shows that I love, like Maria Bartiromo, all the important business shows, and my show and Don Jr.'s. But I just want to talk to you about that because I know you're so busy working. You're such an amazing family man. I absolutely adore your wife. You guys are an incredible team. But there are a lot of people who are saying, wow, this is someone that, we're really get a look after and be behind. And we think it's just like the beginning of a great future. And so many people would love for you to, engage in public service as well. But I'm like, not just yet. We're on a mission, a crusade.
Yeah, my job's already stressful enough. I don't know about public office. I would say, Kimberly, obviously those are very kind words, none of which I deserve, but I really appreciate that. Yes. I would say that Americans need to know right now that you're not just limited to voting every 2 and 4 years. You are not solely limited to the ballot box to express your intent for how society is structured. You can actually vote every day. And you can vote based upon your values. 83% of millennials actively factor in the values a company espouses before shopping there. The economy has moved to this position now where people want to know who makes these products. And I want to know that I'm not shopping with a brand that hates me. In that regard, our platform has been able to be a real thought leader. It's been a pioneer in this space. We're tip of the spear of this parallel economy movement that certainly has a lot of political overlap. I love politics because it's the organization of people. It's how societies are structured and what values guide their experience as people. So to that aim, I would say, yes, I love politics. I believe it can be a useful tool. But that said, I certainly admire the friends of mine that are in the Congress and enjoy fighting the fight as elected officials. I really feel like my battlefield is commerce. I feel like we've been planted here specifically for such a time as this to be able to move society and the power structures of society through economic forces toward we the people. And if we can actually mobilize millions of Americans to feel like they have a voice again with the power of their wallet, a lot will shift, most notably the economy.
Yes.
But gosh, politics too. If you look at how a lot of political decisions are made, Kimberly, you know this, you and Don have seen this more than anybody. One thing I loved about Trump's campaign, both in 2016 and 2020, is he made it very clear. He was a man of the people. And he's doing that right now in 2024 as well. He doesn't need the money from the massive economic engines that are trying to buy off politicians. Trump has lost money by serving an elected position, which is, by the way, how it should be. People should be able, as elected officials, to sacrifice for the people that they represent. That's what politics needs to be. Politics has become such a game of economic warfare. So our desire is, what if we could actually shift where the profit centers are, so that the voices of we the people are heard in a magnified way, and that they're represented on scales like never seen before, and that in turn, that shifts how political decisions are made, because no longer will a candidate just answer to their super PAC or just answer to their 3 largest donors. A candidate will answer to we the people, because we the people are where the profit center lies. So that's my dream for the political arena. I want folks to know that they have the ability to vote every day with their wallet. And if I can be a part in that to any degree, I will know that I can rest easy at night.
Yeah. Well, let me, I want to get a little bit deeper into one area, because so many people are asking about, the capacity, what's the goals, et cetera, for the next year, the next 5 years, et cetera, the next decade for, PublicSq, for PublicSq. But one of the things that I find so particularly fascinating and interesting, and how fast you were able to onboard it, is the ability to have e-commerce. And if you could just talk a little bit about Every Life and the incredible diaper company that's been started, the genesis of that, and how perhaps that is a framework and a model for what's to come.
I'd be happy to. So our goal from the beginning has been really to create a differentiated Amazon, where not only do the values of our platform differentiate us, but also the functionality. We want to be a platform that, unlike Amazon, is rooted in community. Amazon has become a platform that is largely full of nameless, faceless brands made by countries that hate us.
Literally.
Nobody really feels good about shopping with Amazon, but they do it because it's quick, it's convenient, and it's easily accessible. So our goal is, what if you can actually create a commerce platform that is quick and convenient and accessible, but actually prioritizes community and belonging in the process? Amazing. Because we know that our values are obviously not only accepted, but celebrated. A good example of that is we're actually launching e-commerce this fall. So one shopping cart, multiple vendors in a seamless checkout experience that rivals that of Amazon. And what's neat about this is that while that will become a real staple of our business, it's not detached from the local functionality, meaning you tell us what you're looking for. You're looking for coffee? Fantastic. Here's options where you can check out right here with the click of a button, or there's a shop 5 miles down the road. You take your pick. We're going to display both of those to you. Amazon doesn't have that.
No, they don't.
What's very cool on top of that, you mentioned Every Life, one of the core functions of our business model is that we've created this platform where consumers and businesses gather based upon shared trust. That platform provides for us a lot of insight into how this consumer cohort, the parallel economy, is shopping and what they're looking for. What are the products that will serve their needs to the greatest degree possible? Sure. One thing we've learned is that we've got a lot of mama bears on the platform, and they needed diapers and baby gear. But unfortunately, every single baby brand in the United States today is vocally and financially pro-abortion. Every one of them.
Like Pampers, Huggies.
Pampers, exactly. Hello Bello, Honest, Coterie. Hello Bello, who's kind of our direct competitor at Every Life. Hello Bello came out this year and said that they are going to fund their employees' abortions. A diaper company. Coterie, which is one of the nicest diapers money can buy, said that their team, quote, feels lost without abortion. So we've seen this sort of ESG economy run rampant, and it's become so absurd that even diaper companies are supporting abortion, which makes no sense either economically or morally, right?
No,
so what we've decided to do is we wanted to actually create a diaper company that would help mothers and fathers around this country that love life and value the miracle of every life spend money with a business that feels the same way. So we create high-performing diapers for every miracle, and no matter whether you are black, white, rich, poor, no matter the circumstances of your conception, socioeconomic status, every life is a miracle and every life celebrates that. So everylife.com is a brand that we own. We started a diaper brand to meet the needs of our consumers because we saw a hole in the market. We're going to do that with multiple brands and products into the future so that our consumers can know for whatever one of the daily purchases they're trying to conduct, there's a brand that has their back and that is excited to serve them with high quality products and will not lecture them in the process. That's our business model. Imagine if Procter & Gamble had a marketplace. And that's where we're going.
Well, that's fantastic. I love the idea and I love the concept. I'm just going to bring up something, but I honestly think that you could do really well in the adult diaper department. Okay, swallow your water.
We've thought about releasing a Joe Biden edition.
I'm serious. I mean, people would buy them, but you know, when we say like every life does matter. The sanctity of life, whether you're a newborn, a miracle baby, or taking care of our, elderly or people as they get older. Why let a company even like Depends dominate the market? I'm dead serious.
Hey, we haven't written that idea off. In fact, I'm pretty sure it was Don that recommended that we should do an April Fool's release and like on April 1 announce a Joe Biden geriatric edition. So
we're going to make Don Jr. model it. How about that? Let him put some skin in the game and some diaper hilarious. In the game. We'll put him, dress him up like baby Huey. Oh my God.
I have a philosophy that we're going to nail it before we scale it. And so I think we got to nail baby diapers first.
Okay.
And then we'll see if we can expand the market a little.
All right. There you go. All right. Well, I love it. It's been fantastic. So just in wrapping up, just sort of like, next steps and, just maybe a thank you to all those people out there that have believed in you in PublicSq. And, we're all in this together. And I think it's a fight worth fighting. And I'll let you finish that off.
Well, no, you nailed it, Kimberly. I could not say it better. We have nothing but appreciation for the consumers and businesses and shareholders that have built this. We said from the beginning, this will not work if it's us building a platform and then giving it to the people. This only works if we, the people, build the platform with us. And so we made a conscious decision in the early days to put the plane in flight and then put it together while it's in the air. We knew the country needed this. We need it. My wife and I needed it. Kimberly, I know you and Don have hungered for this for years. Like, this is your message, the ability for patriots to recognize that they have way more power than they think they do, to be able to shift society toward the values of we the people. And my thanks go to all of those folks that have helped us build this movement. But it's also tethered to an ask that folks would continue to build it with us.
Sure.
This will not work over the course of the next decade and the decades to come, for generations to come, because that's really the long game we have in mind. It will not happen unless we, the people, stand up, fill with hope, and put purpose behind their purchase, vote with their wallet, spend money on those companies that deserve our hard-earned dollars. And if you're a business owner, power to you, and we are here to support you. And thank you for fighting the good fight, because there is government bureaucracy, there's over-regulations, there's high taxation trying to nip at your heels. And the resilience of the small business community in America is incredibly inspiring. So if this platform can help serve you and your needs and your daily plight, we will know that we're doing a job well done. So, Kimberly, can't thank you enough for having me on the show. Folks can check out the platform at PublicSq.com, whether you're a consumer or a business. We're also on the New York Stock Exchange at PSQH. And I'm incredibly grateful for all those folks that are helping build America's marketplace with us.
Oh, thank you. And that is our fearless leader, Michael Seifert, the brain and genius behind PublicSq. It's an honor to be in the fight with you. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to flood the PublicSq. We're going to take back our economy and take back our country, because that is what we need, that economic engine going forward with like-minded Americans, not afraid to stand for their values. So God bless you and your family, Michael, and we're going to continue following your success and the progress of PublicSq. Thank you so much for making time with us today.
Thank you, Kimberly. So great to see you.
Okay, thank you. I also want to thank a brave sponsor for supporting this show. So be sure to go check out the great folks over at Goldco. Gold and silver can protect your retirement savings from inflation and dollar devaluation. Look, we all see the economic warning signs. We see banks collapsing. We see reckless spending. And I want you to be ready, because I'm ready. With Goldco, you can take action to secure and stabilize your portfolio. Roll over your 401k or IRA into precious metals and safeguard your savings, and you can do this tax and penalty free. So from precious metals, IRAs to direct purchases of gold and silver, Goldco has helped thousands of Americans place over $2 billion in gold and silver. And when you open up a qualifying gold IRA today, get up to $10,000 in free silver. When is the last time you got something for free, let alone $10,000 in silver? So it's easy. Go to kimsmetals.com to learn more. That's kimsmetals.com. The great people over at Goldco will walk you through the entire thing. Now, after the COVID lockdowns, the lawlessness, and the never-ending far-left lunacy, restaurant owners over the last 3 years have had to work harder than ever to keep their businesses up and running. And one leading voice in taking on the madness has been Southern California restaurateur and chef Andrew Gruel. You've seen him all over Twitter, showing off some of the most delicious meals that you have ever seen, all while he's fought back against the mandates and the regulations in deep blue California that's made it harder and harder to run a business. He is the founder of the American Gravy Restaurant Group, which includes the famous Calico Fish House in Huntington Beach, California. And joining us now, my great pleasure to have chef and entrepreneur Andrew Gruel on the program. Thank you so much, Chef, for being here.
Thanks for having me.
All right. So yes, welcome to the program. And first off, introduce yourself to this amazing audience that we have and how this idea of the PATRIOT economy motivates your mission to launch all of these amazing restaurants.
Well, as I always say, food is the great unifier, number one. So I think I'm in a unique space in that I can actually bring voices together and introduce reason and rationale to the crazy conversations that we're hearing day in and day out. But for me, especially being in Southern California, I think a lot of people don't realize that there's a lot of people here in California who don't want to deal with this insanity. And as I started to speak up early in the pandemic, I was afraid I was going to lose everything. I was going to get canceled. They were going to come after me, which they did. But the parallel economy I talk about, those people who support reason and rationale, regardless of whether they agree with everything I'm saying, just the ability to stand up and be honest and principled, they came out and supported my business in droves. And we've got an incredible client base. We've got an incredible customer base that believes in your ability to speak freely in America. And a lot of times, look, it's done over food. It's done through food. Food is a great medium.
It really is, right? And like you say, it's a great unifier because you can sit down and use the phrase like break bread with people, and you can sit down across from a table, and regardless of, political beliefs or affiliations, you might be able to get along as long as the food is exceptional. So I'm sure there's a lot of that at your restaurants. Except Thanksgiving dinner, there seems to be always like political arguments or religious arguments or something like that. But, I actually found your business, Calico Fish House, on PublicSq, which I'm a big fan of and actually an investor in as well. And I can't wait to get out there and visit it in person. It makes my mouth water as we speak. But, coming out of the COVID lockdown era, do you feel like consumers more than ever, they're like ready to vote with their dollars and support businesses from hardworking Americans and entrepreneurs, like yourself that have aligned values or similar values?
Yeah, they of course want to support businesses that have aligned values, but even furthermore, they want to support businesses that are independently run and operated by people who think for themselves. And I think that's a key point here, because I don't necessarily want to just put this down party lines. I think that when we feel as if all of the businesses in which we shop in are being controlled by some kind of a priori or some fictitious hand from a corporate overlord, at least that's kind of, the conspiracy that's painted out there, that our dollars are going to something that we don't control. But when we're helping those local small businesses, even multi-unit restaurant owners, people who are running the business with their own decisions, they're not being managed by a large kind of, board with ulterior motives, it's a lot easier to spend money at businesses like that.
Yeah, it's really true. And you know what feels good? I don't know if it makes the food taste better, but it feels good swallowing going down. But all right, so you're in deep blue, sorry about that, California, okay? Which, by the way, I used to live there and everything, as the viewers know. And, beautiful state, some phenomenal restaurants. I was an owner of a winery and multiple restaurants there back in the day. But, talk about some of the challenges, the real challenges, and the excessive, onerous regulations when it comes to running a business in California. People want to know about that. And, what will you do if, and I shudder to say this, but if more COVID mandates come down? Because a lot of people talking about that, as you see on social media.
Well, I mean, I think that, kind of your first point leads to the second point. So first and foremost, in California, it's incredibly difficult to run businesses unless you have a significant sum of money, because you're up against so many barriers of entry. And it's almost as if it feels as if the barriers of entries are there to prevent the little guys from getting into business, because they want the bigger, larger multi-unit corporations to be running the business environment because they're easier to control and there's a little bit more quid pro quo. I'm just a one-off, a two-off business, and I'm a lot harder to control. They got to spend more money to get my money. But the taxes are double that of many other states, number one. Payroll taxes are incredibly excessive. When you look at just, here's an example. I pay full payroll taxes on tips that are given to my team members. So at the end of the day, my payroll, 40% of my total payroll might be taxes. In other states, it's along the lines of like 10 or 15%. Wow. Since I started running a business in California 10 years ago, that's gone up about 15 or 20% on the total. These PAGA lawsuits, right? So we're dealing with these lawsuits now where you can do absolutely nothing and get sued because it's a legal racket that's run in coordination with predatory law firms and the state government. So they have these kind of template-based lawsuits. Team members and employees are being served these cheap ads on Instagram. Have you been fired from your job? We'll get you money. They go after the business and they threaten them with a big lawsuit for something that they may not have even done. And then they encourage you to settle. Let's say you settle for $5,000. 70% of that money goes back to the state of California. 25% goes to the law firm and 5% goes to the supposed victim. Well, that's just encouraging the state to now go after you by way of the private law firm. They're stepping around, kind of the constitutional framework that allows them to now use the private economy to their advantage. And that's where I talk about these larger multi-unit groups that are partnering up with the government. And then furthermore, it's the local regulations that they just hit you with from an environmental perspective, from a water cost perspective, the way in which the electricity costs have gone up so significantly, because the money's going somewhere and it's not going to help the small businesses or the entrepreneurs. The money is actually going to line, a lot of the politicians' pockets. It's kind of cronyism and nepotism at its best. So, that's one piece of it. And then when you look at trying to run a business and you don't have the cash flow to succeed because it's a cash flow based business and you're going paycheck to paycheck or kind of, payroll to payroll or day to day when it comes to sales. And you hear this idea that there's going to be more mandates coming down that are going to restrict our ability to bring in revenue. Well, that's the straw that's going to break the camel's back. 5 days absent revenue, businesses are going to shut down left and right. Mm-hmm. And that's what happened in the first phase of the pandemic last time. And a lot of those businesses got forgotten before the PPP actually flowed through to those businesses. I would say 30 to 40% of the shutdowns happened in that phase one. And so now the thought of it happening again and everybody kind of just quickly forgetting or pigeonholing what happened the first time is a real scary prospect, especially from the perspective of a small business restaurant owner.
Yeah, it's really true. And you think about that. And, I love entrepreneurs like yourself, have really put it all out there, invested everything to try to put something together for their passion project, follow your bliss and do something that you believe in, you feel passionate about, and trying to create great value and experience in people's lives. When you see the reality of what's going on here, like places like PublicSq, Don Jr. and I, we were in DC for my birthday just because we were working as we always are. And we wanted to go someplace that we weren't going to get potatoes thrown at our head or whatever. So we looked it up. Yeah, not really. Yeah. And we're like, okay, where can we go in DC? We're not going to be murdered or whatever, or poisoned or who knows. And we found this great, restaurant. And we were like, oh, okay, wait a second. It was called the Monocle. And we went there. We had the time of our lives, and it was like a huge migrant group, whatever. But we actually put it to use by actually checking to see where we could go. Yeah. That was highly rated. We were treated exceptionally well. It went viral on the internet when we posted it and whatnot. People have to see the value in that, about expressing yourself and not cowering or hiding in a corner, but being like, okay, listen, this is who I am. This is what I believe in. And we have open doors, for quote people like us. Good God. Do you think that more restaurant owners, like yourself will embrace this sort of, parallel economy and, start saying no, to all the woke lunacy being pushed on the American people? And I'm just curious if you're seeing any change any kind of progression in California. Now, you know, what you talked about so eloquently, you spoke about what happened and the genesis of this with COVID, and then the aftermath, and now the progression going forward, you know, leading into potentially another, you know, roadblock. What are your, you know, friends and colleagues and whatnot saying?
Well, I think that the lunacy of having a shutdown would completely break the industry on all political sides, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because even when we were going through the phase one insanity, I was getting phone calls left and right from chefs who were incredibly liberal, very, very, very left wing, who were like, thank you for speaking out. This is complete lunacy. This is complete insanity. But the thing that's nuts is the way in which they reconciled right back into their lanes immediately after the pandemic. But now it's death by 1,000 cuts, because in between pandemic 1 and pandemic 2, we're about to enter a new season, right? It's like an HBO special. In between that time frame was the cancellations, right? The woke ideology that was just taking you little by little, right? Internally, because a lot of your team members start to speak out about it. And then you have to manage that internally. And I think that that's actually really been a wet blanket on top of a lot of the restaurateurs here in California. And once again, they privately speak out to me, but they're still not at that point of publicly speaking out because they're afraid of the wrath.
Yeah, they're afraid of the wrath. They don't want to get canceled. They don't want their business to get boycotted. But they have to see, if they're being intellectually honest, that, you know, this is the problem. It's not coming from our side. It's coming from that side where they say, okay, we want to stop, punish, you know, cancel businesses unless they align with our values. I'm happy to go to any restaurant. I just don't want to be attacked or poisoned. I don't think it's like too hard to, you know, understand and too much to ask. But I don't know. Do you feel like there was a little bit of an awakening per se, where people were like, wow, this is nuts?
Yeah, like I said, there was an awakening, but then a lot of people quickly went back to sleep, because what happens is that then they're hypnotized by the mainstream media, and it's the headlines, because most of us are running our businesses day in and day out, and we don't have time to dig into these granular details. I do, because I love it, and I'm passionate about it. However, for a lot of people, you know, they've got other hobbies. Consider mine mundane, but they, you know, so what happens now is that the media comes out, and if you read the headlines and then you read the last line of any story right now, they never match, because the headline is nothing more than sensationalism trying to kind of breed ideology. So unfortunately, I think a lot of people, as you say, did they wake up to it? And they perhaps did, but then they went back into that deep, you know, psychological slumber. That's the problem right there, is that we all need to open our eyes more. And once again, we talk about PublicSq, literally and figuratively. So PublicSq as a company is phenomenal. PublicSq as a concept, which is what a restaurant traditionally was, right? A pub was the public square, and it was a public forum through which people could debate ideas, ideologies, different ideas and different ideologies completely across the spectrum.
Yeah.
They need to remain as such. And it's up to the restaurateurs and business owners to keep those open and inclusive of all ideas. And that's what we do. And that's the problem. I mean, it's a horrific thought to think that you have to worry about getting potatoes thrown at you when you go out to eat. You know, regardless of who you are, right, left, center, it doesn't matter. I mean, that's horrible. A restaurant is a place to relax and eat and enjoy friends and family.
Oh, unbelievable. You don't want it to be a UFC ring. We've been at some places like in upstate New York where it got a little crazy when I was with Don Jr. and, you know, my soon-to-be brother-in-law, Eric Trump. And it was pretty crazy. But, you know, we don't try to, like, you know, give voice to those people. That's why we're just, like, very careful, because anyone's trying to record us at all times or whatever. But it's like that. We've seen people who are followers, supporters, you know, be kicked out of restaurants, you know, videos taken, the, you know, thirst for, like, gotcha videos, you know, all of the above. But nevertheless, I will say, at least we live in Florida, we're treated very well here in Jupiter and whatnot. But, you know, it's not just COVID policy, because as a former prosecutor, something that really disturbs me is that crime continues to be a major concern. It's really disturbing. It's distressing. It causes millions and millions of dollars, loss of business and revenue for small business owners. It destroys communities and neighborhoods. You know, what impact is this having on restaurants in Southern California?
It's killing restaurants, because we've got cash on hand, right? So that's a target. But furthermore, a lot of restaurant owners look at their team members as partners in the business. And to have all of these employees and these team members who are also at risk of, or in danger in many cases, especially in places like Los Angeles, I'm in Orange County, so we've got a little bit stricter of kind of a local.
Pretty nice there, by the way, honey.
Thank you. But at the same rate, right? And even here, I deal with a lot of issues with people coming into the restaurant and causing problems, dine-in dashers, fights in the parking lot. I had somebody the other day in the parking lot when I told them not to park here because we're right across from the beach, so they want to do parking and go to the beach. I said, look, we got to save parking spots for our customers. He told me he was going to come back and shoot me. And I said, that's fine. I'll just call the sheriff. And he goes, who cares? They're not going to do anything. And I thought to myself, that's emblematic of the criminal's mentality.
Can you
right
imagine
now.
that? And someone saying they're going to shoot you, that's a terrorist threat, by the way. You don't have to be a terrorist. That's what it's called. It's Penal Code Section 422, the California Penal Code section. So outrageous. And the people have become so emboldened. They can say and do whatever they want, commit acts of violence, looting, stealing, property damage, which just destroys neighborhoods and communities. But, you're so spot on all these issues and so articulate in the way that you describe them and explain them. Tell the viewers a little bit more about, what inspired you to go into this business in the first place. And when you look back, what was your first entry into this business? How has it changed for better or for worse? Tell us a little bit about your journey.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I started in the restaurant industry just because I had to have a job in high school growing up. I grew up in Jersey. I'm a Jersey boy and started working in restaurants, ultimately went to a small liberal arts college up in Maine. And I was actually studying philosophy and piano performance, consider that. And, I was spending more time in restaurants than I was in class. So I decided this was what my career should be. So I kind of went through the journey of going to culinary school and then ultimately back to business school to become a restaurateur. And it wasn't until 2011 that I started my own business. I started with one food truck and I grew to 30 locations nationwide. And I just sold it 2 years ago, actually, because of, I think, some of what was coming after me, and decided to I've got 4 kids and a family. So we said, let's just break it down to a couple restaurants and then, take on public policy by way of food. As I said at the head of this conversation, food is a great unifier. And I firmly believe that food and restaurants are the way in which we can actually kind of bring some reason and rationale to the public conversation.
Agreed.
So for me, there's something absolutely amazing. Just politics and policy and all social culture aside, just cooking is awesome, right? It's great. Eating and cooking is one of the greatest things in the world. We all love it.
So
and
true.
Doing it for other people is even better.
Agreed.
I get to do this for hundreds of people day in and day out. My family does as well. So there's something kind of warm and fuzzy about that. But for me now, on bringing public policy back into it, this is the avenue through which I can educate people about what's right and what's wrong through the food, and then using that as a platform by which I can actually open people's eyes and talk to them about the real issues without them already shutting off. Food is, I use the food porn, it's the bait on the hook. You bring them in and then say, let's have a reasonable conversation instead of just throwing potatoes at each other.
As I say this with the most respect for potatoes, it's one of my favorite food. I love mashed potatoes, like baked potatoes, like potato skins. I love sweet potatoes. But, I'm a nice Irish Puerto Rican girl, right? A lot you can do, a lot of happiness you can create with a potato. Potatoes are rotten, I can go all day. But so let's talk about this. One of the differences, I'm making myself hungry, between being a chef versus, which is there's a difference, and being a restaurant owner or a restaurant, manager in terms of, those different categories or responsibilities, classifications, and then what's the transition like going from each or any one of those?
Well, I mean, you own restaurants and wineries. You understand that being an owner is also being a psychologist, right? 90% of what you're going to deal with is the human variable. And I think that that's the one thing about this industry is that you can't automate it. ChatGPT or whatever has absolutely no say in the day-to-day. I spend most of my time managing personalities and making sure people are happy. The food is the easy part. So I look at it as the food and the chef part, as you described, is the marketing, and everything else is operations and psychology. And, in order to understand operations and psychology, you actually have to understand those who work with you, because those are the people that are creating your product, and your product is your food. So I can create the greatest product in the world, but if it's not executed properly, well, then I'm going to fail. And
Right.
if I don't give the best service in the world, then I'm going to fail. Because you can have phenomenal food and bad service and people will never come back. You can have
It's so
horrible
true.
food and great service and people will come back. So
That's got to make you so frustrated. Let me tell you something. I would lose it. This is why chefs like lose it, because you can prepare the most delicious, like succulent meals that everybody's like mouth watering. I love it. Blah blah blah. Then you have bad service. It doesn't get to the table. It's cold. Then they send it back. I mean, it must be so frustrating because it's not mission complete until it gets to the table and in the mouth.
Yeah, exactly. And so many things can happen from, deploying the mission to executing the mission along the way. And that kind of goes back to those variables I mentioned, right? Those are the human variables. They're unpredictable and you have to manage them on the fly. You have to manage them with creativity and improvisation.
You do. And people need to respect whatever line of the chain you're on. You've got to respect the food and the presentation and the timing and make sure it's still warm and get it to the right table. It's so crazy. Here we have got great food at Admiral's and the chef is so nice. And so he's giving me a new dish or whatever. I'm going to bring this out to you. I was so excited. I was like, oh, I'm going to try this. And it was like this delicious, like spicy tuna and crispy rice with caviar and creme fraiche. And so I was like, oh, yes, this is happening. Yes. 20 minutes go by.
I love it.
They come out and they go, we're sorry. That table ate your food. I'm like, wait, what the hell? I want to go jump and pull it out of their mouth. I was like, what do you mean ate it? As in it's gone? They're like, yeah, we have to start all over. We're so sorry. The server brought it to the wrong table. And they're like, compliments of the chef. You're not going to go back and take it off their table and go, bro, no compliments from the chef for you. You know what I mean? So it was pretty funny, but I was like, oh, all good. I'm glad they got to try it, whatever. And meanwhile, I'm like, but anyway, it's funny, but like you're relying on that and you're only kind of as strong as like your weakest link. And if somebody can't figure it out to bring to what table or what's going on, or if they drop it on you or drop it on the floor, or drop it on the people I've seen it all. I have seen it all. And some fiery chefs too with a lot, like you said, you have to be, part psychologist, right? So they can manage all the emotions and et cetera and get kind of a well-oiled machine going where people respect everybody's important role in that process.
Yeah. You're 100% correct. The beauty, though, of the industry is that even with mistakes like that, sometimes you can turn a mistake into a grand opportunity and create lifelong guests. Because how many times has somebody resolved a mistake and gone above and beyond? And then you're like, you know what? I want to go back there because of their problem resolution. It's the one industry where you can do that.
It's really true. So when I see something like that, I'm still in like the management mode. I'm like, oh, you guys should offer that table a glass of champagne, or you should offer them, they've been waiting and give them an appetizer. Like how hard is it to give somebody a, little plate of like chips and guac or something for 5 minutes if the kitchen's backed up? They'll remember that. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then they'll come back. And it's just so obvious to me. That's why I help manage the menu, at our club here. But you are known for your spectacular menu items and even your, quality, phenomenal, production value. How did you master, this business, and what can you tell us about all, your restaurants, but give us, of course, a few of your favorite dishes.
I would say don't over intellectualize food. I mean, people try and do way too much with it. You got to let the food do the talking. And I know that sounds like a cliche, but when you start with great ingredients, all you need to do is just amplify their flavors. So This applies to even a home cook, is that we eat with our palates. Our palates are salty, sour, sweet, and bitter. If we don't complete that, kind of culinary equilibrium, well, then things are going to taste bland or they're not going to feel complete. You ever eaten something and you go, it just feels incomplete? Most of the reason is because you haven't completed your palate. So if I'm talking like salty, got to add salt. Sour, you got to add acid, right? Whether it's lemon juice or vinegar. Yeah. A lot of times food lacks that vinegar because the vinegar cuts through the richness of the food. So balancing it out based on your palate, using high quality ingredients, and then just take well-known dishes that people already have kind of a mental construct for and improvise one or two ingredients on top of it. So that's what we do. We don't confuse people when they come in and read the menu. It's not like they're trying to, do a dissertation on like a Tolstoy novel or Dostoevsky. They know the dishes, they know what they should expect, and they're anticipating a little spin to make it unique to our own.
Okay, so all right, give me a couple dishes here.
All right, well, let's see. Our lobster grilled cheese is a famous one. We take a traditional grilled cheese, we do Maine lobster, a little bit of crab. We do a spicy kind of vinegar-based sauce to cut through the richness. We make our own fresh potato bread because it's a little bit softer and a little bit richer.
There we
and
go,
the key,
the potato.
you think to yourself, simple grilled cheese. We toast the bread hard on both sides. So you double that beautifully toasted, buttery bread flavor on both sides, gives the sandwich architecture, and it's perfect.
Oh, I love it. You know what's so funny that you just said this? We are so on the same wavelength. I was going to say to you, if you said, well, what's one of your favorite dishes? I'm like, oh, grilled cheese. Not even kidding you. And, you know, that's why I was asked back all the time for sleepovers with all my friends and their parents, because I was the polite, nice little girl that always ordered the grilled cheese because I felt like I was getting a lot of bang for my buck. It had a lot of flavor, especially if it was like, you know, grilled on both sides with butter on both sides. Yum, 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 yum. And sometimes I get a little side of tomato soup or something. I'm going to tell you something. You can't go wrong with that. But then there's the people who want the little, you know, crust cut off or whatever. We have one of those guys here, one of our buddies here at the Admirals. He always wants his little crust off, but it's so funny. But everybody still likes it, whether you're like 5 years old or 80 years old. It's always a crowd pleaser. And if it's done well, it's amazing. And by the way, it's not such a high cost for you. Did we get you frozen for a second there?
Yep, just for a second. Sorry.
Okay, good. You're back. Yeah, it's a relatively inexpensive to make grilled cheese, you know, but it can be done really, really well. Like you said, if there's nice architecture and everything else is good in it.
Yeah, and that's the key, right? Is kind of that bourgeois style food. Just do it. You know, even it doesn't need to be expensive. The same goes with offcuts of meat, different types of fish, underutilized species of fish. I mean, everybody kind of relegates to a lot of the well-known species, but you can do so much with some of these local fish, these off-utilized species. And it's also really great for the ocean, right? The ocean is incredibly resilient, but diversifying and not eating down into a species is also great to keep all of the biomass of those species plentiful. And America has the most sustainable fisheries, the best oceans in the world. And yet we consume 80% of our seafood from China, Indonesia, Vietnam, these countries that are treating the fish with chemicals. Which is why we got to talk about American food. We've got to buy American, eat more American seafood, support our American fishermen. They're being put out of business right now.
Oh, I agree. Don Jr. would agree with you. It's a very important point, by the way. Why do you go to China to get fish?
Yeah.
Like, really?
It makes no sense. And yet that's where we buy our fish. People don't realize that.
Oh, my God. They're putting fentanyl probably in the fish next. Don't even get me started. All right.
Me neither, because I got stats on that.
Right? I mean, it's unbelievable. You know, and then people would remember before where everyone was always ordering like the Chilean sea bass with bok choy. Like that was like nonstop. It was like a never ending pit, a well of everyone ordering that nonstop and nonstop. Well, it's unbelievable. So tell everybody so they can go, because I want everyone to go and support his businesses and enjoy his fabulous food, his incredible menus. Here's your chance to pitch yourself, Chef.
All right, thank you so much. Calico Fish House in Huntington Beach, California. It's right on Pacific Coast Highway in Huntington Beach. Stop by calico-restaurant.com, and I'll be here. I'm cooking online.
I absolutely love it. So go experience it and see how he manages the kitchen and everything else. What a pleasure to meet you and discuss all of this with you. We look forward to having you back on. You're a great friend to the show, and we love anything you want to come on and talk about. Let us know, okay? You can bring some of your dishes next time. We'll take a look and make everyone's mouth water. The one and only, the extraordinary Chef Andrew Grohl. Be sure and check him out, Calico Fish House. Thank you so much for being on the program.
Thank you again.
And I also want to bring you a message from Patriot Lifestyle, where you can save more and spend less on a whole host of different benefits, from non-insurance healthcare benefits to savings on travel, identity, an extraordinary value, and will greatly improve your life. So hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss these major episodes. And my closing remarks just ahead. But first, I want to thank another incredible sponsor to this program. So be sure, please, to go check out the great products over at MyPillow. Mike Lindell and the great team over at MyPillow is out with the MyPillow 2.0. And you know what that means? The best pillow is getting even better. Equipped with a brand new temperature regulating technology, it will keep you comfortable throughout the entire night. And as Mike Lindell has been telling you, the patented interlocking fill allows you to adjust your MyPillow to your individual needs. So it's going to give you exact support that you need from the bed to your head, and it's going to stay that way throughout the night. And you can buy one, get one free. Buy one, get one free with promo code Kimberly at mypillow.com, along with big discounts on all your favorite MyPillow products. That's mypillow.com/Kimberly. Go check it out. And in closing tonight, the Patriot economy is more important than ever, and Americans are done surrendering to the woke economy. We don't just vote at the ballot box. We vote with our feet and with our dollars and wallets and pocketbooks. Remember, you have a choice in where you choose to shop. And you don't have to choose between what you buy and what you believe. And don't ever forget that. Don't be a robot. So thank you so much for joining us today. And remember that you have a home right here with me on this show on Rumble, where we reject the false narrative and always seek the truth. So be sure to like and subscribe to my channel at Kimberly Guilfoyle, turn on notifications, download the Rumble app, and tell all your friends and family so they know exactly where to find us. And also, please be sure to follow me across all platforms, X, formerly known as Twitter, Truth Social, Facebook, and Instagram, and throw Don Jr. a follow there as well. I hope you have a